everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a video that I've been wanting to film for so long, but I've just been putting it off for whatever reason. However, today I'm going to be giving you some of my graphic novel and manga recommendations. I definitely like to, switch up my reading every now and then by picking up something from a different format, so I've read quite a few different graphic novels and manga over the last few years. So today I want to talk about what some of my personal favorites have been and maybe give you guys some ideas. Some of these you've definitely heard of. I'm not saying this is like, the manga graphic novels you've never heard of before, but these are just my personal favorites, and if you haven't read them, I would highly recommend you do. Also, at the end of this video, I thought it would be fun to kind of give you a mini graphic novel TBR that I have for myself. There's not too many on it, but I thought I could talk through them, give you guys like a synopsis of them, and maybe this could also be like RECS that I just haven't read yet, so I will do that towards the end of the video. So I have quite a few to get through here today, so we're just gonna get into it, and I really hope you enjoy and maybe find some good RECS. So I'm gonna start out with the couple that you've definitely heard of. Like, I know I've talked about them a lot, and I'm sure so many other people have because they are both amazing, but it would feel wrong to not include them in this list, you know what I'm saying? So first of all, obviously we have Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. I really don't know what you're doing if you haven't read Heartstopper yet. It follows our two main characters, Nick and Charlie, who fall in love. It's really cute. The art style is very simple, but it's also just like a really, like kind of sketchy and messy art style, which I love so much, and this series is just so wholesome. So you have to pick up Heartstopper if you haven't. Alice Oseman also recently came out with the Heartstopper yearbook, and it's a bit different from like the normal graphic novel series, but if you really like Heartstopper, I would also recommend you pick this up because it has like sketches and never before seen scenes and all that kind of fun stuff. There's like character profiles, so if you like Heartstopper and you haven't picked this up, maybe this can be a new rec for you, but you gotta read Heartstopper. And then the other one I have is a manga recommendation, and that is Spy Family by Tetsuya Endo. This is the second volume of it because this is the only volume of it that I own, but I've read up through, I've read the first 4 volumes. I need to read volumes 5 through 6. I keep telling myself that I'm gonna do it. I literally check them out from the library, and I just never read them. And I don't know why, because I love the first 4 so much. I'm sure a lot of you guys do know what Spy Family is, but if you don't, let me give you the quick rundown that I say every time I talk about this series. So basically, you're following our main character, Lloyd, who is he's a spy, and he has this mission. And for this mission, he needs a fake family. So he goes out, and he gets himself a fake wife. He gets himself a fake daughter. This family is a little weird though, because the daughter Anya, who's on the second volume here, she's a telepath. He also goes and gets a wife who is an assassin. He himself is a spy, but like they don't really know about, the side activities that any of them are partaking in, and it's really funny. It's a really fun dynamic because they're acting like a normal family, but they are the furthest thing from that, and it is such a good time. They also get a dog in the 4th volume of it, or is it the 5th volume? I don't know, but there's also a dog thrown into the family at some point. There's definitely like some good action moments in this series, but it's not really the forefront of the plot. You're really just following this family, and all the domestic moments are so cute. So if you haven't picked up Spy Family, I would highly recommend as well. Okay, now that we've gotten the main 2 out, we're gonna go through the rest of this list and just whatever is on top of my stack here. I don't have copies of all of these because for the most part I do check out my manga and graphic novels from the library, but I have copies of them, you know that I really like them. So next up we have Through the Woods by Emily Carroll. This is more on the spooky side of graphic novels. I read this one a couple of years ago, like in October, and it was the perfect time to pick this up, but I do think you could just read it any time of the year. It has like 5 different short stories in this, so I don't really know if I can give you like a good idea as a whole what this is about, but they're all very creepy. The art style is rather unsettling, and I just really loved all of these stories. I do believe my favorite one out of here, where is it? Yes, my favorite one out of here is A Lady's Hands Are Cold. Very creepy. All of these are just very unsettling, and I love this one so much. The art style also is gorgeous. I love that it's like primarily black and white, however you do have pops of red and blue throughout. I love graphic novels that have like a limited and very distinct color palette, which is like very, like it's pretty common in graphic novels, but I do just love it when they do that, and that is definitely what this one is. All of the illustrations are just so pretty. They're like so simple, but I'm just like, wow, look at them. Stunning. The next 2 series that I want to talk about kind of go hand in hand, and that would be the Mortal Instruments graphic novels and the Infernal Devices manga. Now, I do love, we'll talk about these first. I do love the Mortal Instruments graphic novels. These are obviously an adaptation of the Mortal Instruments by Cassandra Clare, but they are illustrated by Cassandra Jean. And if you don't know, Cassandra Jean has done so much artwork for the Shadowhunters Chronicles over the year, and I love her art style so much. So when I found out that these were a thing, and they were just graphic novels full of her illustrations, I was like, oh, that's the good stuff right there. I really enjoy these so much, and this is coming from somebody who doesn't really like the Mortal Instruments. Like, it's okay, but obviously there are a lot of issues with it, so I'm never like, oh yeah, I should like go reread the Mortal Instruments. But I will re-consume the story in this kind of graphic novel format. Like, I'm very into that. Currently, there are 6 volumes out of this series, and the way it works is there are 2 graphic novels per book. So the first 2 graphic novels cover City of Bones, the 3rd and 4th cover City of Ashes, and these, which are 5 and 6, cover City of Glass. I don't know if they're doing the rest of this series. Maybe it just hasn't been announced. I'm not sure. But I just do really enjoy this, and if you also kind of want to get a refresher on the Mortal Instruments, but you don't want to go through the pain of rereading it, I would recommend these. They're also very pretty. Like, look at these portraits. What? Look at these drawings, illustrations, I suppose you could call them. The rest of it's in black and white, but I do believe like all of these volumes I think have like full color illustrations like at the very beginning of them, and I really like them. Like, it's a lot of fun. So highly recommend Mortal Instruments graphic novels. And like I mentioned, we also have the Infernal Devices manga. I can't lie, I was extremely skeptical when I heard that there was a manga for this series. I was like, I don't know about that one, and it took me a minute to kind of adjust to the art style because I was like, this is not the vibe that I was getting from the Infernal Devices. But I can't lie, I really enjoyed this. Like, once you kind of get into it, you're like, okay, that's kind of fun. It's also a way to like revisit the Infernal Devices without having to like reread the entire thing. I do, however, think some important details are missing from the manga. However, if you absolutely love the Infernal Devices, I would recommend you check out the manga. Next up, I want to talk about a graphic novel that I read rather recently, and that is The Sprite and the Gardener. This is by Joe Witt and Ree Abrigo, and it is so gorgeous. I do believe I read this on Kindle Unlimited, I think. So if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can definitely go check it out. However, even if you don't, I would definitely recommend. The art style of this one is absolutely stunning. I feel like you can just tell from the cover that it's gonna be so gorgeous. It follows our main character, who's a little sprite. And in this graphic novel, you know, like, sprites obviously help a lot with making plants grow and flowers grow and that kind of fun stuff, but in the society that we're kind of looking at, they've kind of taken a step back from that life and kind of just leave it to the humans. However, one day, our sprite stumbles upon this gardener who's not very good at gardening, I guess. She gets all of her sprite friends to help out the gardener as well, and it is just so pretty. This is also a graphic novel that has like a very defined color palette because it's mainly like pinks and purple and like yellow, and it is so, it's just like a delight to look at, you know what I'm saying? It's also full of illustrations of like plants and flowers and trees, and it's so beautiful. It's not super long, so I definitely would recommend you guys check this one out. Next up, I want to talk about a horror manga from the king of horror manga, Junji Ito. I personally haven't read too many of his works. I think I've read 3. I've read Tomi, Lovesickness, and Frankenstein. I did not love Frankenstein. However, I would recommend Lovesickness or Tomi. Both of those were super interesting, but I'm mainly going to be talking about Tomi because I feel like it gives you a more fulfilling story than Lovesickness does because it is quite long. It is so incredibly thick because it is full of stories about this girl whose name is Tomi. I think she's a succubus, and basically she goes and ruins men's lives just for like 800 pages, and it is so creepy and weird, but it's also like very compelling. You're just like, what is about to happen? I remember there's this one story about how Tomi was like stuck in the side of a mountain or something. There's like a blizzard. She got snowed in while she was out, I don't know, walking in the mountains one day or something. And these dudes just like stumbled upon her, and she was like, I've been here for 30 days. And they were like, yeah, that's normal. Like, you wouldn't have died out here after like a week. So they like take her back to their camp or something. And she just like, I think she kills them. I have no idea. I don't remember completely. But that story sticks out in my mind, and I'm just like, why? But also, I was having a really good time when I read Tomi. I definitely really enjoyed it. I'm also recommending this one specifically because I do think it's a bit easier to get invested in this like singular volume of manga than it is to get invested in like other like short manga, you know what I'm saying, because you're following our main character. So there's so many different stories throughout this book, and you just like, I don't, like, you want to know what happens next, but like you also don't. Like, if you want to get started with Junji Ito and you want to take my advice, very beginner in the Junji Ito realm, I would personally recommend Tomi. Next up, I do want to talk about another rather popular graphic novel series. However, I recently picked this up and I've been loving it so much. I've already read the first 3 volumes and I've been having such a good time. And that is, ooh, these are so heavy, Lore Olympus by Rachel Smythe. Basically, this is a graphic novel series that follows the love story between Hades and Persephone. Personally, as I'm sure a lot of you guys do as well, I love a good Hades and Persephone story. So when I saw that this was getting turned into a graphic novel, because originally it was just a webtoon, I was like, I should read it. And then I didn't read it for like a few years, but I finally picked it up and I'm so glad I did because I've been enjoying it so much. The art style is gorgeous. I definitely really like it. I also enjoy the fact that all of like the gods and goddesses have like a signature color. So like everybody's just a different color, and I don't know why, but I really like that as a concept, and I feel like it's really easy to tell people apart that way too. I will say so far it's definitely been a slow burn for Hades and Persephone. I know the webtoon is like super long, so I'm not surprised. However, I have really enjoyed the development in their relationship in the first 3 volumes of this series, so I'm very excited to read some more. I also think the series is just like really funny. Like, there are a lot of things that I just like laugh out loud at, and it takes a lot in a graphic novel for me to like actually like laugh at it, you know? Like, something about the humor I just really enjoy. But on the flip side of that, this series does deal with like some heavier topics, so I would definitely recommend checking out the trigger warnings if you are thinking about picking it up. I think it's woven into the story really well, and it's really good. This next one may be one of my top favorites on this list. Like, if you're gonna pick one out from this list, aside from like Heartstopper and Spy Family, I think it should be this one, and that is Fangs by Sarah Anderson. I love this so much. It takes like 15 minutes to read max, and it is a love story between a vampire and a werewolf. And if you know me at all, you know that is right up my alley. I love this graphic novel so much. It's definitely very like episodic because there's not really a main plot line running through it. It's kind of just like snippets of the relationship between this vampire and werewolf, and it is so cute. It's so funny. Like, please check out Fangs. I need to get a physical copy of it ASAP because I would love to reread it. Originally I read it from the library, but I need my own copy. You know what I'm saying? It's so fun. Next up, I want to move on to I think it's a manga series, potentially, that I don't like. I have mixed feelings on it, but I still want to recommend it because if you are a cat person like I am, then I think you will still enjoy it despite the lack of like an actual plot running through this series. And that is Creepy Cat by Cotton Valent, I think. Basically, this follows our main character Flora, who moves into this like gothic looking mansion. There's this dude that's kind of pining after her. He's kind of weird, to be honest, but like, I don't read it for them. Because in this mansion that our main character moved into, there are just like a million creepy cats. This one's also very episodic. Like, there's not really a main plot running through it. You're kind of just following all these predicaments that Flora and I don't remember what the dude's name is, but the predicaments that they end up in due to all of these creepy cats, and it is so it's really fun, and I definitely need to read more volumes of it. I know I had the 3rd volume at one point, like checked out from the library, but I don't think I ever read it, which is a common theme, I suppose, but soon. I'll have to add that onto my TBR up here. Soon I will read more volumes of this. This next graphic novel series I definitely picked up on a whim from the library one day. I was walking through the graphic novel aisle just looking for something different, and I saw that like all of the volumes of this series were there, and I'd heard of it. I knew kind of the basic premise, so I was like, all right, sure. But I ended up loving it so much, and that is the Fence series by C.S. Picot. Basically, this follows dudes who fence. But hear me out, it's actually really fun. You're following our main character who's kind of new to the fencing team. He has this like beef with, you know, the top guy who's already on the fencing team. There might be a bit of a romance brewing, who knows. There's also just a bunch of other like amazing friendships, amazing relationships through like this group of just like dudes who fence. And I'm like, yeah, I now just know so much more about fencing than I ever knew before, which wasn't hard because I knew absolutely nothing about fencing to begin with. And I don't know, when I picked it up I was like, maybe I'll enjoy this, but I was just like flying through the volumes. I was like, yeah, having a good time. So if you want something just like fast and fun, I would recommend Fangs. And then the last graphic novel that I have to recommend to you guys is one that I think it was 2 years ago when I read it, and I don't remember a ton about it, but I know that I really enjoyed it when I did read it, so I'm just gonna throw it on this list anyway. And that is Nimona by N.D. Stevenson. This follows our main character Nimona, who is a shapeshifter of sorts, and she kind of teams up with this villain. It's kind of a situation where you have like the good guy, you know, superhero, whatever, then you also have the villain. So she teams up with the villain, but he's like really bad at being a villain because he wants to stick to like doing things that are very ethical. But she's not into that. She's just like, we're just gonna do it. We're villains, we gotta get into it. And he's like, but that's not right. So he's just like a terrible villain, and I do remember this being really funny. But aside from that, I don't remember much about it, but I do know that I enjoyed it, so maybe you guys will enjoy it as well. So those are kind of all of the recommendations that I have for you guys. Now, let's talk about my mini graphic novel TBR, meaning there's like 3 on here, and that's it. I need this. Come here. Oh, I did not plan ahead. Everything's fine. I'm not fixing that stack of books, so it'll be, we're just gonna leave that there. Anyway. So the first graphic novel that I do have in my TBR is something that I plan to read very soon. I'm thinking maybe I'll read it in March because something, you know, related to this graphic novel is coming out in March. So I'm like, I feel like that would be fun, you know? And that is Demon in the Wood by Leigh Bardugo and Danny Pendergast. This is a graphic novel version of the story Demon in the Wood, which Leigh Bardugo did release like a novelized format of it, which I think I tried to read, but I really couldn't get into it. However, when I saw that they were making a graphic novel of it, I was like, hello? Yes. But I just haven't read it yet, and I don't know why. I definitely think it would be really fun to read this in March because Shadow and Bone Season 2 is coming out in March, so I'm like, could read something Shadow and Bone related without like committing to actually reading Shadow and Bone, you know what I'm saying? So I think that might be a good idea. I don't really know much about this aside from the fact that it is a origin story, or maybe not an origin story, but it follows the Darkling before he became the Darkling. Anyway, I do really hope to read this soon. I think I'm really going to enjoy this, so this is high on the TBR. Next up is a graphic novel that I saw as I was scrolling through, I think, Amazon one day, and the cover of this really caught my eye. And then I read the synopsis and I was like, oh, it's quite the dichotomy. And that's a graphic novel, Beautiful Darkness, which is by Fabian Vellman and Maria Pompuy. Well, here's what it looks like, and it definitely like draws you in. You're like, oh, this looks, you know, cute. And then you look into the synopsis, then you're like, oh, you're following small people that are living in a human corpse. Like, it sounds atrocious, honestly, but I am incredibly intrigued. And the dichotomy is definitely what makes it interesting because all of the art in this graphic novel looks like it's very pretty, but I think it's kind of described as like an anti-fairy tale type of situation, which I think I'm really going to enjoy. And I really want to read this one soon, so I really hope I can. Then this next one, I've also been meaning to read for like an eternity, honestly. Ever since I found out about it, I was like, I should read that series. It looks so cute. And I just haven't. And that is the Tea Dragon Society series by Kay O'Neill. I think there's 3 of them out, and I would really like to read all 3 of them. So you have the Tea Dragon Society, the Tea Dragon Festival, and the Tea Dragon Tapestry. I mean, you can just tell by the covers of these graphic novels that they are so beautiful. And I know Kay O'Neill also has a couple of other graphic novels as well, which I wouldn't mind checking out. But I want to read the freaking Tea Dragon books first because I've been wanting to read them forever, but I just haven't. They look so beautiful. There's tiny dragons in them, and I'm just like, that sounds like everything I could possibly want. So I'm really hoping that I can read the first one very soon. It's giving me spring vibes, so I'm really hoping I can read it in like March or April maybe, but this year, mark my words, I'm gonna read it this year. Anyway, that is, oh, Fritz wanted out, but say hi. Aww. So yes, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I just love reading graphic novels and manga so much. I think it's so interesting to see what kind of story can be told when you add a visual element to it. So if you guys have any graphic novel or manga recommendations for me, I would love to hear it. I'm honestly open to anything. However, I think I lean a bit more towards like spooky graphic novels or like fantasy-ish graphic novels. However, I could read a contemporary, literally anything. Let me know if you guys have any recommendations because I would love to check them out. So yes, I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one.